this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warmer, disco.
The Disco Dork. A bad review is better than sinking into the great glut of anonymity. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
Woohoo! Wait, it sounds a little... Wait, we're missing two.
Still.
Oh, shit.
It's still a Sundance. We're actually recording this on the last day of Sundance Film Festival, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, it's because you lied to me, Brian.
It's either by the time this comes out, it would have been the last day, so...
Oh, okay. So, yeah, they're still freezing their faces off over in... is Utah?
Yeah, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. But they'll be back soon. So next episode, they'll have all these great stories about all these great movies that they've seen.
I can only imagine how many movies they've seen.
At the last post that I saw, Brad said something like, this is movie 37. And this wasn't his last day. That wasn't even the last. This was like yesterday or the day before. So you've seen at that point yesterday, it was like 37 movies.
That just sounds like a daunting task. Because I follow certain reviewers and commentators on Twitter that work for like professional outlets. And they've tweeted out that they've seen like 21, 25 movies.
That's it?
And here's Brad. I've seen like 37 movies over the course of a week.
Well, you got to think, like we did something similar when we went to Fantastic Fest and left from there, went straight to Lost Weekend.
Yeah, I don't think I could have done that.
Come on, don't say that. So I'm pretty sure they're having wonderful weeks in Dork, which, like I said, they'll share when they get back. Which just sharing, if you're not following us on the Facebook page, shame on you, you should be, because they have been posting daily recaps. But I'm pretty sure that they'll go in depth to some of with more of their favorite films when they get back. In the meantime, we've been here holding it down. Brian, how was your Sundance-less week in Dork?
It was okay, just like last week. I haven't really been watching a lot, man. It's crazy. The Game of Thrones, I'm loving doing that, but a lot of my time is editing, getting those videos out because I'm committed and I love rewatching this thing again and having us recap that, but that's taking a lot of my time, so I haven't really been able to, especially at home, watching a lot of movies like that. But I'm definitely going to try to get back into the fold of just movie watching in general. And of course the theaters, January, February. I mean, the next couple of weeks we got some films coming up I'm excited for, but nothing to really kind of make me spend my money to go to the theater right now. So I was able to catch Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy Tapes. Now this is a 4-part docu-series that's on Netflix right now, and unfortunately I haven't been able to finish it. So I'm only going to talk about the first episode that I saw. And it's intriguing, man. Like, sometimes it's kind of hard for me to watch some of these kind of serial killer docu-series because for me it's almost kind of like watching a scary movie. Like when I'm in when it's like late night in my apartment watching this at home, I'm looking over my shoulder and it's just I don't know, man. It's just frightening to hear these stories about, because again, we talk about, like, when we look at horror movies, it's the real life stuff that's horrific to me. It's not the ghosts and goblins and spirits and stuff like that. And to hear like these real life stories, especially a person like Ted Bundy, even though this happened back in the 70s, it's just creepy and eerie to hear about this.
Yeah.
So it's titled Conversations with the Killer, the Ted Bundy Tapes. So it starts off with this reporter who goes to Florida where Ted Bundy is on death row, I believe. And he's going there because Ted Bundy wants to get his side of the story, because he feels like he's been set up, been framed, and that he's an innocent man. So when he gets down there, the reporter wants to talk to Ted Bundy about a lot of these different murders that has happened over the course of, these block of years. And Ted Bundy is just kind of diverting the whole conversation about these specific murders, and the reporter realized that he basically Ted Bundy wanted to talk because he was trying to get basically like a profile on himself, almost to try to build up his celebrity, and so the reporter just felt like, I'm not getting anything out of him. So he tried to take a page out of, from a psychological standpoint. He said, let me see if I can get Ted Bundy to talk about these murders in a third person. So he would bring some of these cold cases and the files of these cases to Ted Bundy. And he was like, okay, if you were a key witness in this murder, how do you think the killer would have gone about trying to commit this crime? So then Ted Bundy starts to talk. He was like, well, if I were to do this, or the person that did this probably did this, this, and this. And then that just kind of opened the floodgates, and he just started talking a lot about these different murders. But they give you a little bit of backstory about Ted Bundy, about him growing up, and then a lot of the women that started disappearing in Seattle, Washington in I think it was the early 70s. There were a couple of different women that went missing in Seattle, and how it just kind of put that city on alert because they didn't really have a lot of people disappearing in Seattle at this time. And then when we learned like how he would move from state to state, and all these disappearances of all these different women, I'm fascinated to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this docu-series. But again, like, just this idea of like getting into the mind of these serial killers, man. But I know it's been something that people have been talking about, and really the main reason I wanted to check this out was because they've just released the trailer for the Ted Bundy movie. It's a long title, and I don't want to get it wrong. Let me see if I can. Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, starring Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. The trailer for that just came out, and so I'm assuming this movie will probably be out later this year, and it premiered at Sundance, which I believe Wife Dork and Mouth Dork have seen the film as well. So I kind of wanted to get a little bit of backstory on who Ted Bundy was. And so I just said, let me check this out whenever the movie gets released, so I have some context of who Ted Bundy was, because we know about Charles Manson and Jeffrey Dahmer and all these different other serial killers. But to be honest, for me personally, I know the name Ted Bundy, but I didn't really know a lot about the crimes that he committed, or like his some of the murders that he was associated with. So I think this docuseries kind of give you a bit of a backstory about that. You haven't checked it out, have you?
I have not yet.
Yeah, so the last thing I want to talk about is a trailer reaction I did for a film coming out this summer that I just had so much fun watching this trailer. If you haven't checked it out, go on the YouTube page and check out my trailer reaction to Hobbs and Shaw.
Yep.
Oh, man. I've been looking forward to this film. This is one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, but prior to this trailer coming out, because I like the idea of them doing a spinoff. And I mentioned this in my trailer reaction that I know a lot of people take issue with the character of Deckard Shaw because of, hashtag justice for Han.
Yeah.
But if you kind of just look at this film separate from that, and for me, I'm a huge Fast and Furious fan. I was highly disappointed with the last movie, Fate of the Furious. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this spinoff. And it does kind of bother me a little bit, but like I said in my trailer reaction, I believe that they're going to try to retcon Han's death in some way, shape, or form. In some way, they're going to do that to kind of, so we don't look at Shaw in such a bad light. But with all that being said, the chemistry that they've shown throughout the last two Fast and Furious movies, putting them together in a film on their own, I think is going to highlight the chemistry that they have, and bringing in somebody like David Leitch, who comes from the school of John Wick, who has his action studio 8711, who did movies like Atomic Blonde and Deadpool 2. You could see that he's bringing in that flair of action. And I know a lot of criticisms that people have is like, well, these movies have just turned into superhero films. And I mean, that's something to take note of, and that's something to acknowledge. Whether that's a criticism or not, I don't want to say I take issue with that, but to each his own. But like my whole thing is like, if they let you know up front what type of movie this is, and you know what type of movie you're buying a ticket for, then let it be what the movie is going to be, and just have fun with that. It's not like,
or don't go see it,
or just don't go see it. But this trailer was a lot of fun, and I love the tone of it. I love how playful it is, and the banter that we see between The Rock and Jason Statham, the action that's in this, and it has one of the great comedic moments at the end of this trailer. That it's so funny because Darren, you text me, you was like, man, I bust out laughing twice, and I was like, really? I was like, all right. So I was like, when I get home, I gotta see what all this. And I'm watching the trailer, and I get to the one moment where they're about to jump out the building and slide down the ropes, and The Rock is like, okay, on three, 1, 2, and The Rock jumps, and he turns, and like the little look that he gives Jason Statham as he's going down, I was like, all right, that's kind of funny. And then when he goes to the elevator, and then like, when you see the action beat when he jumps onto that one guy, and again, The Rock punches somebody with a helmet on. I just like, dude, you punching somebody with your bare fist with a helmet on. Okay. All right, look, I'm with it. And then like when he sees Jason Statham in the elevator, and he's like, you motherfucker. And then he takes the dude and rams him into the side of the elevator, and then he yells out, fuck you. And he mouths it. Dude, I don't know why, I thought that shit was hilarious.
That was the other time I bust out.
Absolutely hilarious, man. It just has that buddy cop feel to it.
Yeah.
And also something I didn't mention, like they use a rendition of Why Can't We Be Friends? And that song was used at the end credits for Lethal Weapon 4. Mm-hmm. And this feels like it feels like a superhero version of a Lethal Weapon movie.
Yeah.
And I love that genre. I love the 80s and 90s, Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours, Red Heat, any of those movies. Tango and Cash is one of my favorite. Bad Boys, of course. We can go on and on. I love the buddy cop action genre.
Yeah. And
we've kind of lost that a little bit as we've gotten into this new era of like superhero movies. And I would love to see that. I mean, we're getting Bad Boys for Life, which I hope lives up.
Well, I don't even think it's just the superhero movies, but if you look, like you just mentioned earlier, John Wick, the lone guy, Taken, Liam Neeson, like one man the one man army type
Yeah,
thing. We've gone back to that Rambo type dude or whatever. That's just one dude that doesn't need a partner. He could just do everything himself.
Yeah, those movies. I Die Hard. I miss those. I missed that era of action movies. Yeah. I mean, whether tonally they fit into those type of films, the Van Damme movies, those type of movies that I grew up with loving from the 80s and 90s. I want to see a resurgence of that, and I think you're right. We're getting that a little bit with movies like Taken, or some of the stuff that Denzel has done, or with John Wick. John Wick is a straight homage and a throwback.
But what I'm saying, like, we went away from buddy cops having two heroes team up or whatever into just having one guy. So now John Wick doesn't he just does everything himself. The movie's just about him, and like Liam Neeson guy, he's a one man army. He can do stuff himself. So now with Hobbs and Shaw and also upcoming Bad Boys for Life, we're getting back to pairing up two personalities, two heroes to take out the bad guy.
And I kind of missed that, and so I like how. And I don't know if they put that song in there as an homage to Lethal Weapon 4.
But it fits with those two characters.
It fits because of the whole thing because they're not really friends and putting two people, because they play that throughout the trailer that
they don't want to work with
each other. They don't want to work together, and it was just great, man. I'm so looking forward to this movie, and again. If you know what you're buying a ticket for, you can't get upset with what the movie is about.
But people gonna do that shit anyway.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But so Hobbs and Shaw, man, July or August. One of those is coming out.
August, I think. Yeah, that movie was pretty high on my most anticipated list this year. I want to say that was my number 2 or number 1, maybe. No, Godzilla was my number 1.
Oh.
Hobbs and Shaw was like number 2 or 3.
Really?
I think so. It was pretty high on my most anticipated list. I'm really looking. I'm not playing when I'm saying I was really.
It was high on my list too. I think it was like number 6.
Yeah.
Because I had, okay, so it was above Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino.
That was number 2. I'm sorry. So it was number 3. Godzilla's number 1. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was number 2. Hobbs and Shaw was number 3.
Over Avengers.
The Avengers wasn't on my list, and what else is coming out? Captain Marvel. No.
Oh, you didn't watch the trailer.
I haven't watched the trailer for that, but of course, I'm looking forward to it. And if I had seen the trailer, that should probably be number 1. But and granted, but that's not really the excuse, because at that point when I did that list, I hadn't seen the trailer for Hobbs and Shaw.
True,
but I still
was excited.
I love the pairing of that.
Me too. Nah, I say you're right. So it's shaping up to be a pretty fun summer.
I hope so, man.
Yeah, man.
All right. I was gonna talk about because like you, I haven't really been to the movie theaters that much this week. So I was gonna talk about my attempt to watch Velvet Buzzsaw, which is where my quote came from. Oddly enough. But I'll talk about that briefly because I don't feel like shitting on this movie. I just want to say that it was hard for me to get through, and not because the material was difficult or whatever, or the subject matter was difficult. It's just that movie is just not my bag, and it's surprising to me that's the same guy that did Nightcrawler. There's just choices that are being made with that movie that just don't align with my taste. That's all. I'll just say that. So much so that I had 2 sittings with that film, and I still wasn't able to get through the entire thing, and I don't have any urgency to finish it.
Did he write? Oh, he wrote it too.
and that's another thing. He wrote and directed it, and it's So
this is his movie.
It's his movie.
Nightcrawler.
And whatever it is he's trying to say with the film, I can respect the fact that it is his movie. He wrote and directed it, so there's something personal in him that he wants to talk about, and he's relaying it through this visual medium. And I get that, and I respect it. It's just that the presentation of it and the people in, like the characters, the type of people that are in that film, they're just not fun to be around for me or watch. But the presentation of it is, I don't know, it's just the way the movie looks is off-putting to me, or I don't like it. So anyway, like I said, I don't want to sit in here and shit on that movie, because there's other people out there who can do that, and I don't want to do that. But what I do want to talk about is a film that I saw not this week, but I think last week or the week before, and I didn't talk about it in my Week in Dork. And it's Peter Jackson's documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old. I actually caught it during its initial limited run. It got re-released and put out like in more and more in theaters. But when it was initially had its limited release, it was only in like two theaters around here.
Okay.
So I went and saw it, and it is Peter Jackson's World War I documentary. And it's a fascinating documentary. I mean, subject matter aside, I mean, the big thing about it is its presentation and the process that James Cameron. Good Lord. I got Battle Alita on the brain. We were talking about that before we started recording. My bad. But also because James Cameron is such an innovator when it comes to technical and visual presentation in cinema. That's probably why I thought of him. But Peter Jackson, the big buzz around the film is the process of which he went to produce it. So he takes old archival black and white footage from World War I, and he goes through a doctoring process. He restores it with color, but not only adding color, it doesn't stop there. So if you can visualize, or if you know old archival footage from that particular era, how it has a sped up, choppy kind of frame rate, how it doesn't look as smooth.
Yeah.
So what he does is he kind of does the thing that they do with your TV does when it adds frames in there to smooth out the image. And so you have color, but also you have a smoothness to the image that gives it this. Peter Jackson said his aim for that was to make these people seem less like a newsreel and more like human beings that went through this experience. And I can say that it works to some extent. It does that, but with that process and doing that, because of the technology that it takes to take footage that doesn't have, it has only a set number of frames, and to add frames to that to smooth out that image or whatever that process is that he does that, it gives the image an almost an otherworldly, not otherworldly. It gives it
Is it an artificiality to it? Like, it just doesn't feel real? I mean, I know his intention may have been to try to connect it to make it feel more human, but it seems like there might be an artifice to it where it almost feels like you can't really connect to it. Is there something like that?
No, not like that. It oddly enough, have you seen the okay, I haven't seen the trailer for Velvet Buzzsaw.
Okay.
But in the trailer for Velvet Buzzsaw, do they show any of the paintings come to life or move?
Yeah.
Okay, how that looks when that painting moves, like there's not really a blurriness to it, but there's that's how the image looks in this. Not to maybe that extent, maybe to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't take me out of it. It's just something that I noticed. But it's also in 3D, which adds a different element to it. They do have 2D showings, but his initial, when he first rolled it out, it was only in 3D. His initial presentation, his intention was in color, frame rate bumped up, and it's in 3D. And that's the way the director means for it to be seen. But because some people are not receptive to 3D, they do have 2D showings now. But that initial rollout was straight 3D. So anyway, it starts out not full frame. You have it's a square, like the newsreel square, and it's in black and white, and it's in its true frame rate. And you have voiceovers of multiple veterans talking about their experience in this particular war. And as they're talking, the camera is slowly panning, it's slowly zooming in, or is slowly zooming into this little small black and white square, to the point where once it gets all the way in, it goes from black and white to color, and it fills the entire frame of the theater, right? And from that point on, we're in full color, upped frame rate 3D presentation. And it maintains that to the very end. When it's wrapping things up, the image goes to black and white, and then we pull back out to that small square. And I found that really visually appealing and effective, where we spent all this time with these men their time here in these trenches in their lives, and now we're leaving them again. We're going back into the movie theater.
Yeah.
And I found that like I said, I found that really impressive and visually interesting. And it goes without saying that any story from a war veteran, whether it be the most mundane action or activity or thing that they did to the most horrific incident of their lives in their military service, it's going to always, if you have any type of heart or empathy or concern for other human beings, it's always going to be compelling and fascinating. And that is this movie. But coupled with these stories, you have visual images to accompany them, so you don't have to imagine what it looked like when a veteran is describing the trenches that were filled with bodies, or that when the rain came and they flooded, or just the conditions of war. Like you don't have to imagine what that's like, because you see it. And it's footage that I've seen, footage from World War I, World War II, but these are images that are new to me. And as a prior service member, I talked about, I remarked about this on one of our Game of Thrones recaps, when I talked about when we were watching when we recapped the battle at Blackwater Bay, and how I looked at this go around and was like, man, like it sucks to be at war anytime, period, right? But man, I just can't imagine being a soldier in that type of army, in that type of warfare, where I got, boulders being thrown on me from the top of a wall I'm trying to, scale or whatever. Yeah. I talked about never wanting to, just glad I didn't have to partake in that type of warfare. Well, I look at, this documentary and the conditions they went through, which are more closely relatable to me in my time in the service than something in, say, like Game of Thrones. I mean, there are military tactics that go way back to those days that are still, they've evolved a little bit, but there is a basis that we still have and use now. So on certain levels and things I can relate to a little bit. But like as far as the experience, the soldier experience, boots on ground experience, something like what is presented in this documentary and what they went through in World War I is more closely relatable. But even then, it's still so far removed from my particular experience where, we have vehicles, we have technology, and we have armament, and we have equipment that, when we're in cold weather, we have things that we can put on in layers, and we have technology that has evolved that protects us more than what these guys had back then. They didn't have half of this shit. They had none of this stuff, and they still soldiered on. But the conditions, you don't even, outside of, if you were never even shot at, if a mortar never hit the trench, if you were never face to face with the enemy opposition and had to put your if you even never had that encounter, if you were somebody who just ran supplies out to the field or whatever, you still had a shitty time. Like, it was the stuff that they went through just outside of combat was just sometimes unimaginable. Yeah. And yet here these people are, and there's a part in it, and this is something I can relate to too. They go through all of that. They go through that horrific stuff. Yeah. And then the war is over, and they come home, and these men are displaced from society. Yeah. Yeah. With the shit that after every war. Not even outside of the sacrifice, but the shit that they've seen and done, to go through those things and see those things, when you come back, it changes you as a human being. Mm-hmm. So when you come back, not only are you a changed human being, but you're a changed human being that doesn't feel like you don't have a place in this society, right? Their life goes on the way that they've been living it. You've changed because you were fighting to make sure that their life can go on the way that they're living it. Yeah. And there's no place for you, jobs and all this other stuff, which is, it's something that we still struggle with today for our veterans. Absolutely. And so seeing that, definitely I had a connection to that, and that hit home. But it's a profound documentary. And, outside of, like I said, outside of its presentation and, you going to see that movie because you want to see something in 3D, something black and white turned to color, at the very least, go see it because of the sacrifice that these people made. Their stories, what they went through, deserves to be told, heard, and known so that it can be appreciated by us and our freedoms and our liberties for people who've sacrificed themselves in their lives and their health, their mental health, their physical health, so that we can speak into a iPhone and send out a podcast to people all over the world about movies and shit. You know what I mean? Like, they deserve to be known that they died so that we can be alive today and have peace and freedom and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So at the very least, if you don't check it out in the theaters, check it out when it comes to home video and Blu-ray on demand or whatever, because it's history. It's an important part of our history, and it deserves to be known. We should be educated about it, so we can educate others about it. Again, so we can be appreciative and put shit in perspective. What are you looking forward to this week, B?
I guess as far as releases, probably, what is that? Lego Movie 2 that comes out?
Yes.
Yeah. So I haven't really. It hasn't really been on my radar. So
I can understand that.
Yeah, but and again, you got to think, like, when the first Lego Movie came out.
How long ago was that? Don't say some shit like 6 or 7 years, man.
Yeah, I don't know about. I think it's like 3 or 4.
Okay.
It was like 3 or 4.
Because every time
years.
you talk, you remind me of when a movie came out. You always go back in the day. I'd be like, damn, it was that long ago?
Man.
Fuck.
Yeah, but it was like 3 or 4 years. But I mean, we've had like little Lego spinoff movies, but.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the actual this is a proper sequel to the Lego Movie. Mm-hmm. But I know you've seen it, and I've heard some good things about the film, so I'm gonna go ahead and check it out. But I'm really looking forward to the week after for Alita: Battle Angel.
Oh,
I've been waiting for that movie for a while.
Yeah, man.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything else on Netflix. Probably try to finish up this Ted Bundy docu-series, and. Oh, man, y'all still, everybody, Netflix, man, docu-series, check out Killer Mike's trigger warnings.
Ooh, yeah.
I talked about it a few weeks ago.
You finish it? Did you finish it?
Yeah, I talked about the whole series.
Okay.
I watched it all in one day. It's an easy watch, 20-25 minutes, 6-part. It's profound and it's deep
and it's relevant,
and it's very relevant to a lot of stuff that we're dealing with today when it comes to the marginalization of people of color, of women, of everything that we're dealing with politically, socially,
school systems,
economically, with the school systems. Everything, man. And like I said, I mean, Killer Mike has some radical ideas, and I don't agree with a lot of them, but I like the fact that he's challenging people and he's making people think and he's opening up the conversation. So I really, really want people to check that out, because I would love to talk to people about trigger warnings. Whether you like it, hate it, or not, I think it's going to open up a big discussion.
You know what else you need to be looking forward to? We need to do this, B. We got to get to also accompany our recap of Game of Thrones. We're going to start doing that Netflix series Kingdom.
Oh yeah.
That Korean drama / horror or whatever series, which I've heard great things about. And I started watching it, and I realized, oh man, this looks good. It feels good. I want to wait. And I gotta watch this with Turtle Dork. So
yeah, man.
We're gonna get, at the very least, we'll get the first episode up so we can give a general consensus of how we feel. Like, you know what, this will be worth going into.
I think it's only 6 episodes when I looked at it. Yeah.
Yep. So it shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward, like you, because I've already seen Lego Movie. So this week, oh my gosh.
What?
So I saw. Shout out to Rap Dork Physics. What up, Chris? So I saw him at the advanced screening of Battle Angel Alita, right?
Yeah.
And so while we were waiting for the movie to start, he asked me if I had seen Serenity, right? And I told him, ever since I saw his post about him seeing that, I meant to ask him what he thought of it, but what the deal was with that movie, because I've been seeing reviews, but the reviews haven't been spoiling it. But I've been seeing reviews where the people say, like, this movie is not what you think, and then it gets fucking nuts. And I
know the spoiler, because I don't care about the movie. I didn't want to see it,
right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna ever see the movie, Chris. So spoil it for me, because I want to know. I want to know what this big deal is. Man, when he spoiled that shit for me, I was like, you know what? I wish you didn't have told me, because I got to see this fucking movie now, because that is insane.
But I heard this movie is terrible. But the thing about it is, like, that twist doesn't even come at the end. It comes because...
Well, he says he knew it from the opening, from the beginning. If you are in the bubble of what this twist represents, then you would get it, right? And Chris is one of those people. I'm definitely one of those people. But what's shocking to me is, outside of that twist, when he told me that, I have heard the rest of the shit because I kept thinking, that is insane, because the way this movie is marketed, it's not marketed to that particular demographic, that particular group of people. Yeah. And so the people that's marketed to, if they go see that movie, they'll be like, what the fuck? Yeah. And you exclude the core audience that would get that thing that you're hinting.
The audience that you're trying.
You're not even pandering to them to say, hey, come see this movie. You'll dig this shit. So how are they going to find out? And it's such a radical choice, not marketing wise, but the thing that I'm not going to spoil it, but that choice, that twist, is such a radical choice that you're almost dooming this movie.
I couldn't believe it, because I did a trailer reaction when it came out a while ago, because the studio has dumped this movie, because, I mean, they had no faith in it, and the movie hasn't really been doing good at all. But the thing is like, when you look at the trailer, it doesn't even lend itself to what the twist actually is.
And on one hand, me personally, I appreciate that, because, I'm the guy that doesn't watch the Infinity War. I'm the guy that cannot watch a trailer, because I like the experience of going into a movie and being taken aback, right? Like, but at the same time, what this twist is, it's really really genre specific. And the trailer that you reviewed, you did a reaction to, is not pandering to the group that likes that genre.
That's why when I heard the twist, I was like, really?
That's what I said.
That doesn't make any sense
at all. But what Chris says, the kid in the movie, because of his, like, what he does, it falls in line with what he does. But still, like, in the grand scheme of the marketing or whatever, it's such a bizarre. When Chris told me that, we were sitting in the auditorium, and, like, people were still coming in, the lights were still up, pre-show was still showing. I literally yelled out, "What the? Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, because that's long story. I say all of that to say, even though Lego Movie 2 is coming out and I've already seen that, I'm gonna go watch that movie this week, because I have to see this. Is it a train wreck? Is it a slept on, like, masterpiece? It's because I'm in that group of people who this would appeal to. Am I gonna be like, oh shit, this is brilliant? Yeah. So I'm curious. So that's what I'm looking forward to this week, because I still can't believe that that's the twist of this movie.
To me, it feels, from what I'm hearing, it's like it's a fascinating train wreck, but it feels like one that needs to be experienced.
I'm going. So you know what? Next week in Dork, I'll have some thoughts on that. I can't remember I don't know if Brad saw this, and if he didn't, I guess I kind of appreciated him for not telling me.
I don't think he has, because I think it literally came out they may have already been in Utah when this came, because I think it came out last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it came out last week.
And I kind of feel like if Brad had seen this, he would have been at the very least, Darren, Serenity, whoa. And I'm not gonna say anything else but whoa. I have a feeling like he would have said at the very least that. But yeah, I'm oddly enough now, I want to see this fucking movie, man.
You gotta hurry up before it leaves theaters.
I know,
it ain't gonna be in theaters much longer.
I know. I tell you what, I ain't got shit planned. You know what? In this afternoon before the Super Bowl, I might go see that shit. If at the very least, I'll see it this week. I'll see it this week or next. Yeah. I hate weekends where there's no release that I want to see, and I'm not in the movie theater on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
I know, it's the worst, man.
So this weekend, I'll probably save it for the weekend, so I can at least be in a theater on the weekend.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that's the fucking movie.
It's crazy to me. Yeah.
I want to say it right now to the listeners so bad. It's so crazy. I know I'm not going to, but it's so crazy. You got to say something, like, you got to tell somebody.
I know.
All right. So that's going to do it for us, man. You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and I was going to say follow the podcast on that's Brad's handle. Shit, hold on. You can only follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We are not on Untappd or Tinder or whatever. Sorry. You can follow Mouth Dork at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd and Untappd. Wife Dork is at Sidewalk Siren and at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram. Billy Dash, the Indie Dork, is at WB Dash on Twitter and Instagram. This motherfucker right here is at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Yeah. He's a sucker. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias because I know how to have one handle for all things. And that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time, hurry back, Mouth Dork and Wife Dork.
That was a shout out for Brad. Yeah.